So there are a bunch of different vocabulary words used to describe the different graph features of polynomials, or really any sort of equations, but specifically talking about polynomials. So first, let's review what all the different graph features we might be looking for are. So I'm just going to draw a general, ooh, that was bad. There we go, there's my straight line tool. Okay, so I have my x-axis and my y-axis, and I'm just going to draw a general curve here. Right, so just a little curvy polynomial here, and let's talk about the different graph features that we might be trying to find. So the first thing that we might be trying to find are our x-intercepts. So I'm just going to color code these here. Right, so this graph in particular has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 x-intercepts. And these might also be called roots or solutions or zeros. Right, so all of those words mean x-intercepts. So if you're asked to find where the roots are, you're actually being asked to find where the solutions, the zeros, or the x-intercepts are. Right, the other thing that we're pretty familiar with hopefully by now is the y-intercept, right? So that's the point where we cross the y-axis. So here we have one of those. And then some other words that we might be trying to find are relative maximums. So visually, these are the tops of our hills. So this is a turning point for the function. Right, remember we read graphs from left to right, where the graph changes from increasing to decreasing. Right, so we go from going up a hill to then going down a hill. So this function has two relative maximums. So we have one up here and one over here. I'm going to actually label these with the words. And I'm going to go back and label all of them because that will make me happier. Right, so I have a root here, I have a root here, and then I have my y-intercept down here. Okay, right, and then the last type of point that we might be looking for is the opposite of a relative maximum, which is going to be a relative minimum. So in terms of visually what these are on the graph is they're the bottom turning points. They're the bottoms of the hills. So these are turning points, and it's the opposite of a maximum. So it's a turning point where the graph changes from decreasing to increasing now. Oops. Just going to abbreviate here. Whoops, and I have the order wrong because I'm looking at my increasing one. So from decreasing to increasing. So I have a minimum over here because it's the bottom turning point, and my graph is going from decreasing to increasing as we move from left to right. And then I actually have a second minimum over here at my y-intercept. So this is also a relative minimum here. So you might be asked to just identify where these features are on a graph very generally like the one I drew. You might also be asked to find them by using a graphing calculator. So we're going to actually use a graphing utility. So if you don't have a graphing calculator at home, right, to graph, a great online tool is the Desmos graphing calculator. So you can go to desmos.com/calculator. And that'll automatically bring up the graphing calculator tool. If you are going to be graphing at home a lot, especially if you're virtually learning right now, and you don't have a graphing calculator, this is like the best graphing utility you can use at home. It's super powerful and it's super easy to use. So we're going to use technology we're going to find all of the graph characteristics, all of those words that we just wrote down for this function. So we're going to graph the equation f of x equals 2x cubed minus 0.5x squared minus 5.1x minus 3. So we want to find any roots or zeros. We want to find the locations of the y-intercept. We want to find the positions of any maximums or minimums. And then that's all of the vocabulary that we need. Okay, so of course I don't have it up. Okay, so I'm going to pull up my Desmos graphing calculator on my iPad. There it is. And I'm going to actually split my screen here. There we go. So that way we can write and see at the same time. Okay, so you can write f of x equals in here. You totally can do that and it will show up just fine. I'm just going to type in what I see though. I'm just going to make this smaller for a second so I have more buttons over here. So I got 2x cubed. Make sure you hit your right arrow key to get down. Minus 0.5x squared. Minus 5.1x. And then minus 3. And I'm going to close this by hitting the double arrows. I'm going to zoom in just so we can see it a little bit better. So the great thing about Desmos is that you can actually click on the graph. So if I tap that, you see all those gray dots appearing, and those are all of our graph vocabulary words. So this graph only has one root, and that's over here at this point. So I'm just going to write that down. I'm going to say that, okay. Oops, I just can't change my color here. Okay, that's fine. All right, so I'm going to have my root at x equaling 1.951. My y-intercept is going to be down at the point 0, -3. Oops. And then my maximum, I have one maximum here, and that's going to be the top point of this hill. So that's -0.842, and then -2.54. Now if you are, oops, I put the decimal point in the wrong place. -0.254. I'm gonna actually make this smaller. There we go. You can split the screen a little bit better. Okay. So depending on how you are being asked this, like what your teacher is asking or what an online question is asking you to do. Sorry about my dogs. You're gonna want to pay attention to your rounding directions because you might have to round these numbers a little further. And then our minimum point is down there at the bottom. It's a bottom turning point, so it's going to be 1.009, comma